In 1974, a film hit theaters that looked like a simple Western comedy on the surface, but what it actually delivered was far more wild, risky, and revolutionary than anyone expected. Blazing Saddles wasn't just funny. It was explosive. It made fun of everything Hollywood used to protect. It poked at racism, mocked outdated traditions, and turned the whole Western genre upside down. But the laughs didn't come easy. Behind the outrageous humor was a mess of arguments, rejected scripts, shocking casting choices, and a studio that nearly killed the film before it ever saw the light of day. The idea started as something so bold, it's surprising it got greenlit at all. A young writer named Andrew Bergman had a wild pitch. A black sheriff arrives in an all-white cowboy town. His original title for the script was Tex X, a clever and direct reference to Malcolm X. The whole concept was designed to attack Hollywood's fake version of the Old West. Back then, Westerns were filled with white heroes and heroic cowboys. Bergman wanted to blow that fantasy apart, and he wasn't trying to be subtle. Even the name of the sheriff was a statement. But Hollywood wasn't ready for this kind of movie. Race was a topic most filmmakers avoided, especially in comedies. Making a joke out of racism wasn't common. Bergman's bold script bounced around and gathered dust while studios quietly passed on it. It was too risky. Then came Mel Brooks, a man known for outrageous comedies, but at the time, he was in trouble himself. His previous film had flopped. He had a baby at home, bills to pay, and not a lot of choices. Taking on this strange, offensive, rule-breaking script wasn't about confidence. It was a lifeline. And it turned out to be the best decision of his life. Brooks didn't write it alone. He brought in 4 more writers: Bergman, Richard Pryor, Norman Steinberg, and Alan Uga. What followed was writing chaos. The group fought constantly. Arguments exploded, nights dragged on, food piled up, and jokes kept flying. Some hilarious, others completely insane. Brooks hung a sign in the writer's room that said, "Please do not write a polite script." And they listened. Everyone pushed boundaries. Jewish writers wrote jokes about black culture. Pryor cracked jokes about Jewish traditions, and no subject was off limits. Richard Pryor was Brooks's first pick to play Sheriff Bart. He had the raw energy, the comedic genius, and the fearless personality that the role needed. But the studio shut it down. Pryor had a history of drug use and had just come out of jail. The insurance company refused to cover him. Brooks was furious, but Pryor didn't walk away. He stayed to help write the script and shape the voice of the film. In the end, Cleveland Little got the part. Brooks later said it was a blessing. Little brought charm, timing, and sharp delivery to the role. And his chemistry with Gene Wilder made it unforgettable. Getting Gene Wilder wasn't easy either. Brooks went through several painful casting failures before finally landing him. First, he offered the role of the Waco Kid to John Wayne. Yes, the actual symbol of the American cowboy. Wayne read the script, laughed, and said it was hilarious. But he politely turned it down, saying he couldn't be seen in such a wild movie. He promised to be first in line to watch it though. Brooks then reached out to Dan Daly, but Daly was nearly blind and had to decline. Gig Young, an Oscar winner, got the role and showed up on set, only to collapse from alcohol withdrawal on day 1. He was hospitalized and never came back. Desperate and nearly out of time, Brooks called Gene Wilder, who had worked with him on The Producers. Wilder flew in, put on the costume, and instantly became the Waco Kid. His laid-back, deadpan performance turned out to be comedy gold. Even with the cast in place, the film still almost died in the editing room. When Brooks showed the finished product to the Warner Brothers executives, they hated it. The room went quiet. They didn't laugh. They didn't clap. They just stared. They wanted to cut everything. The racial jokes, the fart scene, the loud humor, and the unpredictable moments that made the film special. Brooks refused. He knew what he had. So he showed it to the studio workers instead, the secretaries, janitors, and assistants. This crowd exploded with laughter. They laughed so hard, they nearly fell out of their seats. That reaction forced the studio's hand. But they still didn't believe in it. They only released the film in 3 cities: New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago, with 0 advertising and no critic screenings. What happened next shocked everyone. People showed up. Then more people. Then lines wrapped around buildings. Word spread like wildfire. Audiences laughed until they cried, came back with friends, and told everyone about the film. The studio had to expand the release quickly to keep up. Blazing Saddles became the #1 movie of 1974. With a budget of just $2.6 million, it earned over $119 million in North America alone. More than 60 million people saw it in theaters. When adjusted for inflation, that's close to $600 million, making it one of the most successful comedies of all time. But Blazing Saddles wasn't just a hit. It changed comedy forever. It didn't follow the rules of a Western. It tore them apart. Brooks filled the movie with jokes that worked on multiple levels. He used names like Governor Lou Pettemain, which was a nod to a French performer famous for his flatulence act. Brooks himself played 2 different characters, including a Native American chief who spoke Yiddish. Every joke had layers. The entire movie made fun of the way Hollywood pretended history was clean and heroic. This film threw dirt on that fantasy and dared the audience to laugh. The soundtrack also broke the rules. Brooks added his own voice to the background singers, hecklers, and random noises throughout the film. The comedy didn't stop with the dialogue. Even the music was part of the joke. The movie was packed with so many gags that watching it once wasn't enough. Every scene was loaded with hidden jokes, references, and unexpected twists. And then there was the famous moment when the movie broke the fourth wall completely. The big fight scene spills off the Western set, into a modern-day Hollywood studio, through a cafeteria, and eventually into a movie theater. It was chaotic, absurd, and completely original. One of the most surprising moments came with the Count Basie scene. In the middle of the desert, during a classic cowboy entrance, there's suddenly a full jazz orchestra playing April in Paris. It made no sense, and that was the point. Jazz didn't even exist in 1874, but Brooks used it to show that this wasn't just a Western. It was a comedy with something to say. By choosing Basie, Brooks honored Black culture and music, while making a joke so strange that it became unforgettable. The impact of Blazing Saddles can still be felt today. It opened the door for comedians to say things they weren't allowed to say before. It proved that audiences were ready for smarter, braver comedy. It tackled racism and hypocrisy using laughter instead of lectures. And it showed that pushing the line could lead to something timeless. The film's best-known moments, the fart scene around the campfire, the punches to the horse, and the endless one-liners, have become part of comedy history. Even now, people are still noticing new things about the film. Whether it's the governor's ridiculous name, the layered dialogue, or the behind-the-scenes stories of cast changes and writing chaos, Blazing Saddles rewards anyone who pays attention. It was born out of frustration, written in madness, nearly cancelled, and saved by a few laughs in a test screening. But all those struggles helped shape it into something rare. Mel Brooks didn't just make people laugh. He gave comedy permission to go further. He showed that comedy could make people uncomfortable, ask hard questions, and still entertain. 50 years later, the film remains a symbol of fearless creativity. It was a movie that nobody wanted to touch at first, but it ended up touching generations. When people talk about classic films, they often remember the stars, the quotes, or the success. But Blazing Saddles is remembered for something even bigger. It took huge risks and still became a hit. It tore down fake stories, challenged outdated views, and gave the world a reason to laugh at the things that used to be too serious to joke about. All these years later, that boldness still matters. If you enjoyed hearing the wild story behind this groundbreaking film, let us know your favorite moment in the comments. And if you love hearing the untold truths behind classic Hollywood legends, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you don't miss what's coming next.